Hello there. That is probably the best pepper I've grown this year so far. That's the size of most of them. And I just popped in here this morning to do a small harvest, and what was I going to do? Oh, a small harvest and water, because these needed a water and the bed needed a water, and I ended up doing a big old tidy up in here. So I've tidied up most of the tomatoes in that corner now. I took off all the leaves and I've just left 1 or 2 green tomatoes on there to ripen, and then they will come out. I've picked a huge bunch of basil, which I'm going to dehydrate and use over the winter as you know, as a dried dried herb. I've harvested all the coloured peppers from here now, so hopefully the green ones will ripen up. And I've taken out quite a few of my tomato plants from this area because they just, you know, weren't growing, so there was no point in leaving them in. I've just left the ones that had green tomatoes on that potentially could have grown more, and then I removed the aubergine plants that were at the back here, and I've replaced them with the pepper plants that were in my cold frame around the front that is now kaput. So we were going to go outside and do some work because I have got quite a lot to do out there, but at the moment it's raining. But when it does stop raining, we can go out and have a look. Hooray! The sun has come out for me to do this job I'm about to do, which is to prune all my plum trees and cherry trees. I really should have done them by now. I should have done them by August time once I'd harvested all the crops, but I just didn't get around to doing it. So I'm quickly going to show you a small bit of pruning and like my take on how I'm going to prune this particular bush, and then I'll set you up and you can see the whole thing. But it may look a bit drastic because this side really needs a good old prune because it's in the way of this pathway here. So whenever anybody walks up this pathway, they always have to duck under the tree, and if I don't do something about it now, it's just going to continue and get thicker and thicker and worse and worse. So really I need to lose quite a lot of this side, which is a bit sad, but hopefully it will recover. So let me talk you through what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with this branch here, which is totally dead. There's absolutely nothing growing on that, so that's not going to be any good to the tree at all. And hopefully by cutting this off, it will encourage another branch to grow this side to balance out the tree, which is really what I want. I wanted more to be growing this side than that side because nobody comes this way that much, but here goes. So I'm cutting at an angle so that when it rains, the rain will just slope off the cut wood and not stay on top and damage it further. So with this one here, I've got a few branches I could actually choose as to how far back I want to take it. So ideally, I'd want to cut it there so that it's nowhere in the way of anyone. But this one here is a bit of a stronger, like leader, well not leader, but it's a stronger branch. So I think I'm going to go back to that one instead of that one. Yeah, let's go for that one. So I'm cutting just above where the cross section is. So I cut that much off, which does look a bit drastic, and I'm sorry I have to do it, but sometimes you have to do it to shape the tree the way you want it shaped. And I decided to go for the branch that was above in the end because I thought this one was growing up in quite a nice way. It wasn't really growing into anybody's eyes, and at the top it's like going up there, so I thought that would be a good branch to keep. This is going to go in the shredder with all my other branches when I get round to shredding, which hopefully we'll do today. Just another little sort of chat of how I do my pruning. So when you're looking at what shape you want your tree to be, where you can see the buds, as it were, there's one there and there's one there. If you cut just there, then it will sprout out that way. So if you want it to grow out that way, that's the way to cut it. Or if you want it to grow inwards, that's the way you cut it. Normally you cut it to grow outwards, but I think I might want to cut it there so that it grows up that way, so it's not encroaching on the pathway. But normally I would cut to the outward so that the tree branches out and it gets more air that way. But you guys probably know that, so I'll just crack on and get this tree pruned. Okay, so hopefully that should survive, and next year we'll get some great plums. I just need to go and do the other ones now. I don't think the other ones need that much doing, because I did prune a few of them quite hard last year, so they shouldn't really need that much reshaping. And I'm also going to take the fennel seeds, cut off the tops of the fennel seeds, put them in a cardboard or a carrier bag of some kind, and when I'm sitting in the evening, I'll just take the seeds off the tops and put them into a glass to keep for whenever we want fennel seeds to cook with, that is. Yeah, let's get on with that. Do you know, I never expected this fennel to do as well as it has. I thought it was going to grow quite small, but it's gone massive. And really, I've been wanting to cut this back all season. But since I'd made the decision to leave it to seed, I thought I better let it run its course. And then hopefully we won't need any fennel seeds for the next 5 years or so. We don't really cook with fennel. It's meant to be a good digestive though, isn't it? If you've got a bad tummy or something, it's meant to be good for that. I'm seeing quite a few of these that have got quite a lot of missing seeds on their heads. So I'll expect quite a few self-seeded fennel around this area next spring. But who doesn't love a good bit of weeding, eh? Well, I've tidied this area all up now. You can actually see my chickens. I'm sure they're quite happy to have the sunlight now, because it's getting a bit colder and they're out there sunbathing, which is nice to see. I've harvested some fennel, which is in the bag there, and then the morning glory, which I think is called epimea possibly. I've put in a small little A-frame here just to run the extensions off, really, because I thought it might get some pretty blue flowers running along here, and if they grow really far, then I can attach them to the tree that I've just pruned at the back. And down here we've got a couple of red cabbages which are growing well, and then where I've got my fennel, or had my fennel, I need to top the level up with compost and plant something in there. Not quite sure yet, but I shall ponder that as I have my lunch. So come on, let's go and have some lunch. Well, this is my lunch for today, and I thought I'd sit in the garden and have it while we have one of the last few sunny days of this September. And I'm having some of my leftover courgette parmigiano, which I cooked the other day, and I have a video just here if you want to check it out. Well, I hope it's there anyway. So that's what I'm having for my lunch, and I thought I'd just chat through the jobs I've got to do this afternoon. So what I really need to do is to move my cages around. My Brussels sprouts are outgrowing their cage now, and they're going to end up with a bit of a crook in their neck if I don't do something really soon. They probably already have. When they grow properly now, they're going to have a little bump in the stems, but hopefully they'll be all right. That is something I really need to do. So after I've had my lunch, I'm going to move the cages around, and then we'll tackle the blackberries and the tayberry bushes as well. So I'll probably set you up on a time lapse while I move the cages around, and then we'll see what happens. But now I'm going to enjoy my lunch while I look out on the lovely field and ignore all the mess I've got to deal with afterwards. No, don't go showing them that. Don't go showing them that. Back to me. I'm going to have a lovely lunch in my beautiful surroundings. So here I am, taking off the cover of the sprout bed. This is one of my smaller cloches, so I need to replace that with one of the bigger ones. And I think I've got myself stuck because there was bungee cords the other side keeping the cloche down in the winds, and I forgot to untie them, so I've unscrewed the side that's hinged, but I've still got it tied by the bungee cords, so that wasn't very good, was it? And here I am, ever so slowly waddling around to release the cords. I think I've got one done, I've got the other one almost done, and at this point I would like to add that this cloche is resting very precariously on my tomatoes that were there. Hooray! The cloche is free. So I'm just going to lean this up against the gate while I move the other one into place. So that will give me a bit of space to move it. And here I am taking off the netting that's covering the purple sprout and broccoli and the leeks, which I'm going to very delicately fold up and put away nicely. No, I'm not. I'm just going to dump it down here on the floor as I move on to staking up the sprouts, which is long overdue, I must tell you. I should have done this ages ago, but I haven't, and now I'm doing it. So I'm just going to take off the lower leaves while I'm here, because sometimes they can get a bit decayed and yellowy, but some of these look all right, so I'll feed the good ones to my chickens, and the ones that have gone sort of yellowish I'll put in my compost. And now I'm just tying in these stakes. So I'm just tying a knot around the stake and then wrapping that around the Brussels sprout stem, and hopefully that will be enough to keep it upright. And really what I'm trying to do is keep it away from the sides of the cloche so it doesn't get crumpled when I put the new cloche on. And I thought as we're here we'll have a look at what the sprouts are actually doing. So there are some sprouts growing there, and I have to say these sprouts are looking good. They haven't looked that good for the last couple of years, so I'm really pleased with how these are looking. Hopefully we'll have some sprouts for Christmas. And this is where I've left the cloche on too long and it's got all bunched up on itself. But hopefully that will start to spread out now as we put the bigger cloche on. And as if on cue, here I am moving the bigger cloche into position. So in your own time, Bethan, come on, chop chop, get a wriggle on. Yep, it all went on really well. So hopefully now the sprouts will have room to spread out and grow a bit better, and we'll have some great looking sprouts for Christmas. And the only thing left for me to do with these sprouts is to screw the hinges back on, so then I can lift the cloche up easier when I want to harvest the leaves and the sprouts when they're ready. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this purple sprouting broccoli that I did with the sprouts. So with this, I'm hammering in the stakes because they wouldn't go in by themselves, and hopefully this will make it a lot stronger. And then I'm tying in the purple sprouting broccoli so that it should stand upright, and I'm just moving this cloche again into position so that it covers it from any late cabbage whites or pigeons that might attack the purple sprouting broccoli. So fingers crossed that we will get some this year. And I have to say, this cloche moved really well. I thought it was going to be really hard to move it, but it went on quite well. Look at that. Amazing. I love it when a plan comes together. And then as I've taken the cloche off this one, I'm just doing some harvesting of carrots and a little bit of weeding while I'm there. Why not? And I did have kale growing next to these carrots, and it is still growing, but very, very slowly. So I'm just replacing this cloche, which had a larger cloche, with a smaller cloche, because I'll be trimming away the carrot tops soon. So I didn't need a big cloche here anyway. Well, I'm beginning to lose the light now, but I'm really pleased to have got some of these jobs done. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll tackle the rest of the ground that needs clearing, and then we'll do the blackberries and the tayberries and anything else that needs doing, really. We're on it now. I'm very tired. It's time to have a cup of tea and go in and take my carrots with me. Now I've swapped those frames over, I feel like I'm on a bit of a roll. So I'm going to clear away all these blighty tomatoes here and the sweet corn that I'm no longer needed. I'll add the sweet corn to the pile of fennel that I cut down, and I'll wood chip them when I'm chipping the branches and everything from down the bottom of my garden. Right, let's get on with clearing some beds. This is a horrible job. It's absolutely disgusting. But it's the only thing I can do, really. And I'll just compost these because blight doesn't live on dead material. It'll only live on living things, so it'll be fine in the compost. It won't stick around and get into the compost, as it were. So these can go straight into the compost. But it is a shame because we had no Heinz tomatoes from here at all, not one. And it's just because the weather has been colder this year, so the tomatoes didn't ripen in time. And this time of year, outdoor tomatoes always get blight. It's just the weather and the frost and everything. So yeah, that's just a shame, but you can't control the weather, can you? So we just have to be thankful for what we have had. And we have had a really good year for brassicas and onions and beetroot. So I'll take what I can get. It's just I want everything. And on that greedy note, I'm now harvesting my dwarf borlottoi beans, which I'll eat over the winter. Hopefully anyway, because they're looking a bit rotten on here, but I'm sure they're fine. I don't think I've left them too late, but they do definitely need harvesting now. And I've harvested them all, cleared away, and this is what I ended up with. So not a huge amount, but it'll be all right for 1 or 2 meals. And now I'm moving on to clearing away the sweet corn. So I'll be glad to see this gone, really, because it's all looking a bit untidy at the moment. So I'm just cutting the sweet corn off at the base, just below the surface of the compost. And then I'll leave the roots in the ground to just rot away by themselves. And then I move on to just weeding the rest of this bed so that it's all looking nice and tidy and ready for the next crops to go in. And here's a lovely panning shot of my lovely weeded beds. Hurrah! And here I am moving on to sorting out the blackberries. And when I say moving on, look at me move. That is at my actual speed. I have not sped this up at all. I am on a mission. I'm getting these blackberries done. Okay, I have sped it up a little bit, but I thought it was better than watching me cutting away a load of branches for a long, long time. And this was a great job to get done. I quite enjoy cutting off the blackberries and tying in the new ones. It always looks much tidier, and it covers the fence well. So I'm always really pleased when I've got this job done, because the new stems look better. The old stems look all old and done with, but the new stems look bright and fresh. So yeah, this is a job I really enjoyed doing. And just as I was close to finishing, it decided to pour down. So I had to take you guys in so that my camera didn't get wet, and we came back the next day to film what the end looked like. So this is now what the blackberries are looking like along the fence. And here are the 4 new blackberry stems for blackberries next year. I then moved on to clearing away these peas. So I had to harvest the peas that are dried on the stems, but I'm not really sure how good they are. And they've been on here so long that some of the actual sheaths or the pods had actually disappeared. They'd rotted away. So I'm not really sure how good these peas are going to be, but I'm going to start them off over the winter and find out whether they're still fertile or not. And I'm just doing a small harvest of the peas now. It did take quite a while to harvest all these peas, I can tell you. It was a job I had put off for quite some time, but I couldn't put it off anymore if I actually wanted some seeds for next year. And then I took down the frame, which didn't take that long actually. I thought it would have taken a while, but it didn't. It all came apart really nicely. So I'm just taking the middle one off here, and I'm shaking off all the compost because of course we want to keep all that lovely compost in the beds. And then I'll just get rid of this middle bit and move on to removing both sides of the fence post. And next year I won't use this system again. I'm going to put in posts either side and just wrap string around at different intervals, and the peas can just climb up it that way. I think that will look better in my garden. And now we're just left with a load of weeding to do. And here is the harvest. So we did end up with quite a good harvest of them. I'll just have to sit one night and take them out of their pods now. Then we moved on to the leeks. Now these leeks are terrible. They just got decimated with black fly this year. We managed to avoid allium leaf minor to just get a load of black fly. And I let my chickens out earlier, and they've scratched all around the bed, which is why these leeks are looking so dreadful. They've had chickens scratching around on them. But they like a little bit of, scratching, and it's not too bad for the soil to have the chickens mooching around and doing their bit. So that's all the leeks gone. We didn't have a leek again this year. So I move on now to tidying my celeriac. So I'm just removing a few of the lower leaves, which will hopefully allow the bulbs to grow a bit more. And now that I've removed the lower leaves, we can actually see what we've got. And the size of most of them is about the size of a tennis ball. So that's not really great, but I've had a lot better. But that's what we've got this year. So that is what we have to have. I'm moving on to weeding around the tayberry area now. I'm just removing some of the last foxgloves and lupins that were lingering around, as well as a couple of the rhubarb leaves that have either been eaten or have started to decay. With the rhubarb, I usually leave the leaves to die down on the plant itself, and that just provides compost and mulch for next year's crop, and I find that really useful. I find that really works well for my rhubarb. But I'm just clearing away the really dead stuff. And again, I'm just clearing away the looping at the moment, more or less so that I can get to the tayberries at the back of the bed. I'm cutting back the tayberry branches now. It's fairly easy to see what are the old branches and the new branches, because the old branches still have some of the old flowers and things on them. So it's easy to see which ones are old and which are new. And I find it just easy to cut the stems every now and again. And that way you can pull them off the wires. And I'm just accumulating a nice little heap here of branches, ready for yet another pile that is going to need chipping really soon. So I've managed to get that job done now. I've tied in the tayberries rather than thread them around the wire, which is what I normally do. I've tied them in instead because my husband wants to rejig this area during the winter. So I've just tied them in for ease of releasing them when he needs to do his building or whatever he's going to do here to make it look better, apparently. And I thought I'd just show you all the nice piles I have accumulated around the garden. So this is the second one of the brambles. And now we've got the branches from my neighbour's garden that have been here for about 3 weeks, and I thought I would have shredded them by now. And finally, this is from the hazel tree and the elderflower tree that I have behind my shed. And my husband has pulled out all the wood that I was storing behind the shed, because apparently it's causing mice to get into the shed. So I have to go through that big pile. And then here is the elderflower tree that I was talking about. He took loads of branches off them because it was getting rotten. And this is the big pile of wood I need to sort out, and a lot of it will go to the dump. Finally, I have got the wood chipper out and I am using it, and I am determined to clear away all these piles that I have managed to acquire around the garden in different areas. So I'm just feeding the brambles or the blackberry and tayberry vines along with the sweetcorn and fennel stems that are really thick, and the chipper is really good for things like that, and sunflowers. I've taken out my sunflowers and put them through here, and this will now all go into the compost, so it'll be shredded up really small, so hopefully it won't take very long to decompose down, and we'll have some new compost early spring next year. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I move on to doing the branches that were in the front garden, and this will give me a lovely amount of wood chip to go on my path between my raised beds in my main growing area in the back garden. So here's the wood chip, and I'm just going to lay it down onto the path and then rake it out, and hopefully we will have enough to do this whole pathway. It's always surprising how little wood chip there is once you've chipped a load of things. You think there's going to be loads, but there isn't. However, I did have enough to do this pathway, so here is the pathway all done, and I was really pleased with it. And here are the places where I had the piles, which are now free. So there's the grass, there's the potato area, and here is the front garden. But sadly, I didn't get round to clearing this bit, so I'll have to do it the next time I'm in the garden. Well, here I am, standing in my newly wood chipped path, which looks really good. Just need to find some more branches for the rest now, but hopefully that will present itself over the winter. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Bethan, and this has been a lovely job.